There is no trick to writing a believable love story, a heartbreaking scene, or real-sounding dialogue. All you need is to tell the truth, and it's always heartbreaking, is what Ethan Hawke said when asked by the New York Times about how to write a believable love story. Richard Linklater is known for films that take place over time, with both the Before Trilogy and Boyhood. In today's video, I'll go over how Linklater shot the Before Trilogy, and in a later video, I may go over how he shoots a scene in his other films, from School of Rock to Dazed and Confused. This video is going to be surrounding the history of the Before Trilogy, how he shot it, and the techniques that he used, as well as the equipment that him and his cinematographers used to achieve the look for the film. Before Sunrise was originally inspired by a woman that Linklater had met at a toy shop in Philadelphia in 1989. Like in the film, they walked around the city deep into the night. As the film is pretty much just dialogue between a man and a woman, he thought it was important to have a strong woman co-write with him. For this, he chose Kim Krizan, who had small roles in both Slacker and Dazed and Confused. In the later films, both Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke helped write the script with Linklater. He spent 9 months casting the film, as he had trouble finding the right actors for the roles. When he first considered Hawke, he found him to be too young for the part, but after seeing Hawke perform in a play in New York City, he reconsidered after talking to him. As for Delpy, when he met her, he just liked her personality, and after they did a reading, Linklater knew that they were right for the roles. After shooting Before Sunrise, Linklater, Hawke, and Delpy discussed the making of a sequel. Linklater considered a version of the sequel to have 4 different locations, as well as having a much larger budget, but was not able to secure funding. Originally, they didn't plan to have the 9-year gaps between the films, and had worked on different potential scripts over the years before adapting elements from Before Sunrise into the final version of Before Sunset. Notably, the film takes place in real time throughout Paris. It was shot in 15 days on a budget of $2 million, as well as being one of the hottest summers on record, which the cast and crew struggled through. It is noted for its use of steadicams and tracking shots, as well as long takes, with the longest being 11 minutes. It was released in 2004, 9 years after the release of Before Sunrise, as well as being 9 years since the characters last met. When it came to Before Midnight, the trio spent 10 weeks rehearsing the film before shooting it in 15 days for only $3 million. It was then released at the 2013 Sundance Film Festival, with the international premiere being out of competition at the 63rd Berlin International Film Festival. It was praised for the writing, as well as being classed as one of the finest movie trilogies of all time. The film is shot in a very natural way. From the movement to the colours, everything appears as how it would be if you were there. To describe it simply, it's a realistic style. For example, the scene in the record store, we have very natural movement, stay wide, and keep a rather deep focus. This is until they go into the booth. Unlike on the train, where we move into close-ups of the characters and have a very shallow depth of field. In the almost 2-minute scene, there are only 3 shots, with one of them being an insert of a record being played. This allows for the scene to play out and the characters to just exist in the world that Linklater has built. They use simple yet balanced compositions, staying at eye level for the opening shot, but lowering down to a low angle for in the booth. Another scene being when they are in the fair, with again an almost 2-minute long take whilst they wander and talk through the fair. Since the film revolves around the dialogue, many of the scenes are just played out in long takes. Paired with the natural lighting, it makes it seem as though you are supposed to be there and are not imposing on the characters. Before Sunset is similar in the sense that a lot of the film is just allowing the characters to do their jobs and exist in the world, allowing the camera to follow them. One of the exceptions to this is in the first scene in the film, where we meet Jesse and Celine again in the bookshop. This is really the only scene in the film in which we are confined in a space. This is mainly down to the fact that there are books everywhere, but this also let Lee Daniel play around with creating physical depth in the image, unlike in the rest of the film, as it was inside. A scene that stands out to me is that on the boat, where again, Jesse and Celine are just having a conversation. Linklater and Daniels shot the majority of the scene on sticks, allowing for us to focus on the dialogue. Yet even this simple scene with the golden sun and flowing movement makes for one of the most memorable sequences in the entire trilogy.
I see in them little details so specific to each of them that move me and that I miss and will always miss.
Midnight took a different approach to the cinematography, and it's clear that it wasn't shot by Daniels from the first frame. A lot of the look is down to the fact that it was shot digitally instead of on film, and whilst this isn't a bad thing, it allows for clear separation between the times where Celine and Jesse were mere partners to when they are married. Whilst the first two locations were stunning, we are able to see so much more of Greece in this film, from the architecture to the beaches. Of course, the film isn't without its extremely long takes on a Steadicam, as we follow the characters from the house at the start to the hotel in several long takes. For me, the scene that always comes to mind is that where we see the sun set from a small restaurant on the pier. We see the sun set through their heads, creating a sort of frame within a frame, as well as just having a golden hue across the screen. Overall, these films share all the same characteristics of just letting the scene play out and allowing the characters to exist in the worlds. And whilst the cinematography in these films is beautiful and tie them together, it's really the acting from Ethan Hawke and Judy Delpy, as well as Linklater's writing and directing, that makes them all so special.
Out of nowhere, out of my thoughts, let me sing you a waltz.
There is very little information surrounding what the first two films were shot on, but I can say that Lee Daniel used Movicam cameras and lenses when shooting Before Sunrise. Movicam originally started in Vienna, which is where the film was shot, but in the 90s it was bought by Arri, who then combined the basic movement and design of Movicam systems with the precise electronic parts designed by Arri. They most likely used the Movicam Compact for Before Sunrise, as it was the latest camera at the time, being released in 1990. As of today, the systems released by Arri are still in high demand by cinematographers and directors for use on feature films. For Before Sunset, Daniels opted for Panavision cameras and lenses, and like the previous films, also shot on 35mm. And whilst it is unclear what film stock was used on Before Sunrise, they used a combination of Kodak and Fuji on Sunset. But more importantly is the use of movement in the film. Daniels said that Sunrise was probably 40% Steadicam, while Sunset was between 70 and 80%, even though he is of the opinion that you shouldn't use a Steadicam unless it is absolutely the best choice. Before Midnight was the first film in the trilogy to not be shot by Lee Daniel, and instead Christos Varadis was chosen to photograph the film. It was also the first time that they didn't shoot on celluloid, and instead used the Arri Alexa. It is, however, unknown what lenses were used. Overall, throughout the series, the feeling of the films never changed, and the cinematography portrayed that. In all three films, it feels natural and not protruding. The characters are memorable, even the ones with only one line of dialogue, and of course, the passage of time is portrayed in real time, and these are all reasons as to why this is often regarded as one of the best trilogies ever made. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of how Richard Linklater shot the Before Trilogy. If you would like to see me break down his other films, then leave a comment down below. If you found this video helpful, a thumbs up is appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.